Yesterday, the former Transnet CFO, Garry, Pita and Anoj Singh, they made a brief appearance in the Palm Ridge Specialised Commercial Crimes Court. They face charges of fraud, corruption, money laundering and the contravention of the Public Finance Management Act. But they are not the only high-profile financial executives finding themselves in hot water lately, especially this month. The ex-Steinhoff CFO Ben le Grange was fined 2 million rand by the JSE and banned from acting as a company director for 10 years. Is this enough, though, that is being done to hold those who are in the financial profession accountable? Let's get some analysis, and we're joined by the Saica CEO, Mr. Freeman Nomvalo. Mr. Nomvalo, thank you very much for your time. Let me begin by asking whether you think the number of court cases that are in the courts that include in them people in the accounting profession, do you think that the age of accountability has arrived?
Good morning, Polly, and good morning to viewers. Thank you for affording me the opportunity here. I think it is encouraging that ultimately the authorities are able to bring those that are accused of these wrongdoings to book. It is an important step to act as a deterrent to others that may be considering such actions. It is important that we all get held accountable.
Is it disappointing, though, Mr. Nomvalo, that a number of chartered accountants, you've heard the names of the people I listed in that introduction,
yes,
that number, it doesn't seem to be going down. Are you worried that your profession has become something that is not what it should be?
I must start by saying, Polly, that our profession is a profession of individuals that are upright, that uphold the public interest, that work as a primary focus of their activities in the public interest. However, we do get to have a very small minority of them that either willfully or otherwise find themselves in compromising situations. Very small minority. It is discouraging when a single member in our profession, out of about 50,000 members, even if a single member is found to be contravening ethical codes, that is a worry for us. That is something we take very seriously. But we do need to note that that is a very, very small minority in comparison to the population of all chartered accountants.
Yeah, I think it was 2 years ago, in 2020, that Anoj Singh had an inquiry held against him, and this was instituted by your organization, the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants, and he was found guilty on just over 10 counts. And the decision thereafter, it was to basically kick him out as a member of Saica. But that doesn't seem to have stopped at least some in the private sector to consult or allow for people like him to consult in their organizations. What would your message be to organizations like that, where people who have acted fraudulently find themselves still getting jobs? It may not necessarily be in government because they would be too afraid to do that, but in the private sector, some businesses see no problem wanting to enlist the services of such human beings.
Yeah, it is a difficult call for us to advise one way or the other, but we do publish our findings so that people who are considering doing business with those people will be fully informed. They may arrive at a different conclusion and assessment and engage those people. And the people concerned may have learned their lesson So we wouldn't necessarily prescribe any way that they should be interacted with. What we are warning is that such people should never ever hold themselves out as chartered accountants or advertise themselves as chartered accountants or pretend to be chartered accountants, as that would be in contravention of the law as well as the code of ethics.
Do you think, Mr. Nomvalo, enough has been done to punish Anoj Singh? And I ask you this question based on a decision that was taken by the Johannesburg Stock Exchange last week. Ben le Grange, who was the CFO at Steinhoff, he was not only fined by that institution, he has been barred from being a director of any company for 10 years. Do you think enough has been done on the part of Anoj Singh?
I wouldn't want to make that, to opine on that for this reason. That those institutions consider information at their disposal and the risk associated with those actions in relation to the mandate they have in executing their regulatory functions. If they so arrive at a conclusion based on all of that, I would trust that they have considered all of the facts appropriately. But clearly, the NPA seems to have a different view, and they are proceeding with other charges against Mr. Singh. So, but to the extent that other regulatory bodies have taken a decision, I will defer to them and respect their opinion, because I don't know all of the considerations they make.
All right, Mr. Nomvalo, let me conclude the conversation again by asking you the question: do you think that this is the age of accountability which has arrived, and might it act as a deterrent to would-be offenders?
Yeah. Slowly as it is, the process of justice does reach every incident of wrongdoing. And therefore, people should not lie and be comforted by the fact that it takes very long for this process to grind until it reaches the conclusion. It will ultimately hit you. You've got to act in the public interest. You've got to act ethically and behave in a manner that is becoming of a chartered accountant, because one day the consequences of your actions will follow you and reach you. So that age is here, and hopefully we can find ways in which we do it quicker in the future.
Saica CEO Freeman Nomvalo, thank you very much for you weighing in on these matters.